Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. Talk a little bit about the Interactive Clinical Study, or iPOS, Graduate Progress Tracking Tool presentation. My name is Steve Yena, Assistant Director in the Graduate College IT and Data Team. I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sederstrom. I'm a business analyst for the Graduate College.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brock Kieser, Business Analyst Associate with the Graduate College as well.
So we're very excited to be here today to share a little bit about the iPOS. Our goals today is that everyone leaves with a better understanding of what the iPOS is, deeper insight into the iPOS data structures. So for those that develop reports, hopefully help you with some best practices on what tables to use for various populations. And those of you that just want access to the reports to be able to run them and get your data, we'll share some different reports and different things we've been working on over the course of the last year. We'll also hopefully everyone will leave with some better knowledge into some of the new iPOS features that we've been working on in the last year. So things like the Graduate Staff Advisor tool, online defenses as a response to COVID. We recently gave faculty access to the iPOS to do approvals for the first time. And then we'll dive into some of the iPOS progress audit tracker dashboard that we've been working on. This is something that's still in beta that staff have access to right now, and it's something that we're looking to roll out in 2021 to students and faculty as well. So we'll dive into that and some of the logic behind the scenes for that as well. So with that, just a quick overview of the Graduate College. We're a enterprise office within ASU made up of about 45 FTE. We have a variety of different offices ranging from graduate student support resources and curriculum and format to postdoctoral affairs and graduate initiatives. These are just some examples of some of the areas that Graduate College supports graduate students, whether it's through funding for merit and needs-based awards, whether it's teaching assistants, research assistants, helping students with professional development courses, mentoring, policy, things of that nature. So those are just some quick examples. Our team specifically, Sean, Brock, and I work in the Graduate College IT and Data Team. We're a small but mighty group, I like to think. Wear many different hats. So we're made up of mostly analysts and developers. We have a wide range of different tasks that we handle, whether it's working on new projects and ideas and helping with requirements and testing and working with our developers to develop new features in some of our PeopleSoft systems like iPOS, 4+1, maybe some of the student-facing web applications that we have like Defense Calendar or Format Advising Tool. We also do the curriculum development and coding for graduate programs, so any new requirements comes through our area for the implementation for that. And I think Brock and Sean will share more about that in this presentation. We've also built up a lot of our analytics capacity here in the last 2 years. So we'll dive into the graduate student progress site. This is really our kind of bread and butter for operational data. And we have over 150 different data elements that are available for really tailored to graduate students. Graduate College Dashboard is something else that we've rolled out here recently in the last year. So it's a suite of dashboards that give aggregate data for graduate students from the point that they apply through graduation and everywhere in between, with the goal of giving program leadership fingertip access to data to make informed decisions. And then I'll make one plug for a data conference presentation we have on Friday around the CGS PhD Career Pathways Research Project. This is something that Grad College has been working on for about 3 years. Just ended, we did surveys to current students and alumni, focused really on career preparation and mentorship. And some exciting stuff that we'll share around that on Friday morning. So with that, the next slide, Sean. Just a quick information about graduate population. So we have over 500 graduate programs. Graduate enrollment was over 22,000 for fall 2020. We support 14 different colleges, provide support training for over 400 support staff. We have about 3,500 RAs and TAs and just over 300 postdoctoral scholars. I don't know if we got the poll working or not, if it's okay if we didn't. So we'll dive right into just an overview of the iPOS here real quick, briefly. So what is the iPOS? It's the purpose of the iPOS is to track student progress towards completing their program by ensuring students' academic plan will fulfill their degree requirements. It also provides connectivity between students, departments, advisors, coordinators, faculty, basically anybody that supports graduate student success. And this is just another example of that. iPOS was developed back in 2007. It went through a major overhaul in 2018. It's a custom-built application that is mobile-friendly and built primarily in PeopleSoft. There's a requirement for the iPOS is that in order to graduate, you have to have a complete iPOS, and it serves as a historical record for graduation. So these are just some examples of iPOS across different ASU systems and just sort of how it ties around the university. The graduate student progress analytics site, like I talked about. I know Brock and Sean will talk more about this. I'll save that. We recently, with the help of UTO, rolled out the Salesforce graduate student profile. So this is really a one-stop shop to a lot of different data on graduate students specifically, whether it's bio-demo data, classes, finances, and then we work with them on closely on the graduate academics and graduate indicators tabs. So there's a lot of different iPOS data available in Salesforce now. And we'll talk towards the end about some of the other projects and initiatives around Salesforce that we've been working with UTO on. MySU, we also have under the programs box, there's a lot of different custom messaging related to iPOS and alerts. So this example just shows iPOS has been approved for a student, but they still need to get their exams in, and they have a course change error as well. And then for those that are more interested on the data side, and we'll talk more about that here briefly, shortly, the data is available in CS Prod, which is PeopleSoft, our PM Prod environment, which is the data warehouse. And then we've been working recently on the AUDB, which is really these user tables, and looking to create some nice data sets that we could share with some of the other data community in the future. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Sean to dive into the iPOS.
All right. Hi, everybody. So this, of course, being a data conference, I did want to give kind of an overview and a little bit of a deep dive into some of the iPOS data structures. So what actually makes the iPOS, what goes into it. So the iPOS is a combination of both delivered PeopleSoft tables as well as over 24 different custom tables that have been created for it. It does interact with the delivered tables, so it pushes information to them, pulls information back. So it's kind of exchange there. And then it pulls in custom information based on the student's data. So whether it is from their academic plan, so plan for program specific information, or for their requirement terms. So we know specifically what requirements to show the student based on when they were admitted, because of course programs change over time. So we're using those delivered tables to pull in the student data, and then it will pull in the custom tables to do a lot of the work behind the scenes. So one of the questions we get a lot is, I just want to see what the status of something is in the iPOS. So I wanted to kind of highlight this one. So the iPOS approval page and the table that backs it, which is the iPOS petitions table, is kind of the core table of the iPOS. This is the one that's doing the majority of the work in terms of approvals and the statuses within the iPOS. So one of the reasons that it tends to be confusing is I think that table, because it's kind of multifaceted and used for a number of different purposes, may not be structured the same way as some others that you're familiar with throughout the ASU data environment. So I wanted to kind of talk about this a little bit. So the approvals table, the petitions table, kind of the data structure for it is that it's all based around the student's milestones. So that's coming from the delivered milestones table. For instance, the iPOS approval, the standard approval is this context, a petition or a milestone within this table. And then I think this is the part that tends to trip people up is the sequence numbering. Sequence numbering is not unique in the iPOS tables, but I think we use it a little bit differently than some other instances. So essentially the way it works is that when a petition, let's say the initial submission of the iPOS is submitted and then going through the various stages of approval, it is assigned a sequence number. So that sequence number will then stay with the approval through all of its various steps, unless it is rejected back to the student. So if it comes to the advisor and the advisor reviews the iPOS and says, nope, there are things here you need to fix, and rejects it back to the student, when the student resubmits it, then it will go to the next sequence number. So in sequence, it would be sequence 2, of course. So whenever you're pulling iPOS data for those purposes, it's generally best practice to start with sequence number first. So I would always go max sequence number, then effective date, then effective sequence. That can vary depending on what you're looking at. For instance, there are some petitions that can be submitted multiple times, leave of absence, for instance. So there may be a full approval for both sequence 1 and sequence 2. So it does kind of vary on your use case, but I did kind of want to just give a kind of overview of how that table is structured, since that's one of the questions we get a lot in terms of iPOS data. The other thing I wanted to touch on is some of the automations that the approvals page is doing behind the scenes. So it is creating milestones in that table. So like I said, the standard approval is a milestone, as well as the student's various requirements, be it a thesis, capstone. Those will all go into the petitions table as a milestone. So if you ever want to find a student's status for any of those various things, this is going to be the table you're going to be looking at. And as far as the petitions table goes, we do also have the petitions page in the iPOS where there are several manually submitted petitions that can be created as well. So it's not entirely automated, but for most use cases, the student submits the iPOS and the system does all the automation for them. And with that, I'm going to push it over to Brock, and he's going to give you an overview of how the course logic works within the iPOS.
All right, so everything that everything that we do is manually programmed. So we are the whole aspect of all the students' courses, all their requirements, all of their milestones. We have to manually program those in. So we pull some stuff from the academic program, goes into the plan, and then we create different requirements, a requirement group, and then we go in and create the course requirements, the course lists, and everything else. This all has to be manually programmed, and there's nothing that is pulled from the catalog. You can go to the next slide, Sean. I think you created these slides, Sean, so you may want to go over these.
Yeah, so the kind of the way that the iPOS pulls in the requirements is, so the requirements that Brock was just talking about. So these are the delivered requirements tables in PeopleSoft. So requirement group and then the requirements that are attached to them. So the way that we kind of automate how a student actually gets the right requirements is that it goes to the those tables. So it goes to those requirements, looks at the effective date of that requirement, and then compares that effective date to the student's requirement term. So go into the term table, get that date, compare it to the effective date of the requirement, and that's how it knows what requirements to give. So for instance, if a student was admitted in fall 2020, and there was a change to the program made in that year, for instance, the number of credit hours required changed, it will then have a new effective date, fall 2020, and that's what's going to tell the system to go pull in those new requirements. It also does a very similar function with the student's subplan. In the context of graduate students and the iPOS, subplans are used to determine the students' kind of track within the program. So for instance, some programs offer multiple options in terms of culminating experiences. So maybe they offer a thesis option as well as a capstone option. It's going to be the subplan that delineates those two. So we deliver different requirements based on the student's subplan. So it's comparing those dates, and then it's also going and looking at the subplan to make sure that we are giving the students the exact right requirements for their program and for their admit requirement term.
Okay, here we go. So you guys are probably all familiar with degree search and the catalog. So everything that's in degree search, these line items here, required core, concentration, other requirements that are displayed in degree search, we manually create these. So we create the course lists and all the courses that are entailed into the line items here. And here's a little summary of a course list. And then you can see how it's tied into a requirement here. And each requirement gets a line item, and then the course list is then tied to that line item. And then this is how it will appear on the iPOS, on a student's iPOS. Each line item here, we will program the total credit hours for a program on each line item, and as far as all the total hours for the whole program as well as each line item. And then here's an example of whether a course list reflects on. Here's a reflection of what a course list looks like on a student's iPOS here. Okay, then we'll dive into the graduate student progress site. So we have lots of different reports that report on iPOS data. Those of you that have been around for a while, since we've been doing the analytics site, you've noticed a big change. As time has passed, the more content we have added onto the site. So we reformatted it here recently a few months ago. Instead of having all the content on one page, we kind of broke it up into different tiles here based off of the report types. You're still able to customize reports. We have 3 Tableau starter reports, and you can access 186 data points with those starter reports. We created a data model a few years ago, and we've slowly added to it as new data points come in, and you'll have access to all of those. And that's what all these reports are custom built on, is that data model. You can also request, I wasn't quite done with that one yet, Sean. You can also request reports built. We can build custom reports for you. We added a tile here for need a report built. It brings you to a form where you can just fill it out, and it will submit a Jira ticket to us, and we will custom build a report for you. And then we can add it to the college pre-built report section. And if you click here, there's a folder for each college, and then it goes down into a department level. Okay, next slide. Here's an example of one of the tiles once you come in. So some of the new features we've added here. If you hover over any of these reports, it gives you a description down below of what the report is. Makes it a little easier for you to navigate and exactly what you're looking for. Next. Here are some examples of iPOS reports that we've created. The classic dashboard view has a lot. It has most of your iPOS data. So we have over 60 rows of data just in this report alone. It mimics the old dashboard, graduate dashboard that we used to have. So we've kind of mimicked that to exactly house everything that report had before. You have culminating document statuses. This has everything for your defending students. One of the newer reports that we've created is the iPOS not approved. This goes down and it shows you the report that includes the percentage of degree completion by the student as well. And another new report that we've created is the staff advisor assignment. It's a dashboard that displays staff advisor assignment by students. Here's an example of one of the reports. Most of them are formatted the same. You can select by college, department. Some of them have campus, some of them don't. But it's a way to tailor them to your specific unit. You can also download these reports to CSV. These reports are available for subscription. If you want to subscribe to any of the reports, just reach out to your graduate college advisor and we can get that set up for you.
Okay, thank you, Brock. So I'm going to kind of highlight some of the new features that we've added over the last year or so to the iPOS. So many of you are probably aware that the iPOS, I think Steve mentioned this as well, was originally launched in 2007, and we did a full rebuild of it in 2018. But we have been adding continual improvements to it since then. So we've added several new features over the last year. So we wanted to kind of highlight some of those for people that might not be aware, and well, because we're proud of them. So here we go. So staff advisor. So kind of the traditional data structure for the staff advisor page within the iPOS is that it pulls information from the plan extensions tables within PeopleSoft. So that's customizable to an extent because the academic units are able to edit and add advisors to that list. But until recently, they weren't able to actually assign advisors to a student. So for instance, like the example you see here, if there were multiple advisors for a program, they didn't have the ability to actually assign a specific advisor to a student. So the student would just see all of the listed advisors. We have actually now added the ability for them to do that. So we launched this late this year, or I'm sorry, I think it was the summer. But this is kind of our new staff advisor page. So it allows academic units to assign students, and we've added the criteria for the different kind of advising structures that exist across campus. So maybe they do an alpha split so they can search and assign by last name. Maybe they have multiple campuses. So one of the common ones would be in-person versus online. So they have an advisor specific to online. They can assign that way. We also added the student groups for special populations like 4+1. So maybe they have an advisor specific to their 4+1 students. So we added those criteria in our search page so they can easily get to those populations and assign advisors. So once they enter their criteria, of course, they're returned with a search. They're able to add, remove, replace, or reset back to default. So when we say resetting back to the default, in this instance, that would be that resetting back to that plan extensions list that I mentioned before. So if there's ever a need to do that, they also have that option as well. So once a advisor is assigned, then we have a custom table that will store that. And the iPOS is programmed to then look at that table first before it goes to plan extensions. If it finds an advisor, then it will pull in specifically that advisor so that the student knows exactly who to contact if they have questions. And it also allows the academic units to pull lists for who the students are for each individual advisor. This information is also pulled directly on the student's My ASU. So they'll have their advisor's name, picture, as well as contact information directly on their My ASU to make it easy for them to know who to contact for anything that they might need. So from the data perspective, these are kind of the tables that back the staff advisor structure. So like I mentioned, the plan extensions tables. So the AKP extends, that's the one that pulls in kind of the generic information. So the department phone number, email address, and advising URL if they've entered one. And the contacts table is the one that contains the actual advisors. But as I mentioned, we've now created a custom table for the tool that will store specifically specifically assigned advisors for those students. So if you ever want to see what student or what advisor is assigned to any specific student, that's going to be the table to look at. All right, online defenses. So this has been something that we had been actually piloting for a couple of years now. But as with everything in 2020, COVID kind of threw us for a bit of a loop here, and we accelerated that plan. So online defenses are now available to all students. We have rebuilt that page in the iPOS to allow students to enter in a Zoom link so that we've now populated that directly onto the Defense Calendar website. And we also added the indicator for whether or not online, in person, or ASU Sync, so a combined in person and online. All right, so the other thing that we've added this year, manage faculty approval. So as Steve mentioned before, previously faculty did not have access to the iPOS. So this is a totally new feature for us. When the previous version of the iPOS, there was the ability to print out the various pages of the iPOS, and it was requested that we rebuild that functionality within the new iPOS, because it's actually a fairly common practice for advisors and for students to need to get approval for be it their courses or their entire plan of study from their faculty. So the traditional method of doing that was to print out the contents of the iPOS, take it to that faculty member, have them sign it, and then that would be the approval. Being the innovative university that we are and trying to reduce our paper as much as possible, we thought that we could do one better, and we built that approval directly into the iPOS. So there is now the ability for advisors to forward the iPOS directly to the faculty. The faculty will then receive a email notification that there is an approval waiting for them. And they also have a link on their My ASU that will take them into the iPOS as well. Either one of those links, either the email or the link on their My ASU, will take them directly to a custom built homepage for them. So this is kind of a pared down version of some of the information that we provide to our staff advisors. but we wanted to focus in on the key details that are pertinent to faculty for this. So we have, of course, their pending approvals, so they have easy access to those. They also have a list of the students that they are actively serving on committees for. So if they want to review the iPOS for a student that they're the committee chair for, they have easy access to that as well. Okay, so the iPOS Progress Audit Tracker. So this is a tool that we actually built in late 2019, but we have kind of held off releasing it. It is currently available and accessible in PeopleSoft for staff, but we haven't released it to students or faculty yet. So you'll see there's a message there that it's in beta. So this was a page that we built to give kind of a one view overview of the student's status, current progress in the program, and to kind of give a indicator for kind of the health of their program. How are they doing? So of course you'll see on here that it displays their course progress, their timelines, as well as the status of their various program milestones. But the piece of this that I want to highlight is the on-track status that we have here, because that's actually doing a lot of the work. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes here. So what is happening there? So the on-track status there is actually a 3-stage status. So they're either on track, needs attention, or critical. So meaning, of course, if you're on track, everything's good, nothing to worry about. Needs attention would be that there's some things that we should probably look at. Maybe your courses are out of date, need to make a change there, but nothing that's going to be a real showstopper. And then critical are going to be the real red flags, things that are going to prevent a student from graduating. So those are kind of the 3 stages of that tracker. So what is it actually doing behind the scenes? So it is looking at things like GPAs, it looks at course errors, it looks at graduation timelines, it's looking at their course registrations, and it's also pulling in the status of their various milestones to make sure that they are on track or that they haven't failed any of those. So what are some of the things that will put a student into the needs attention category? So for instance, if they're past their anticipated graduation term, if they're in their maximum graduation term, so they're in that deadline term, by policy, master's students have 6 years to complete a degree, doctoral have 10 years. So if they have reached that point, we want to give them a warning saying, hey, you got to finish up here. So make sure we bring that to their attention, as well as, like I mentioned before, course errors. If they happen to need to make a change there, we also want to bring that to attention as well. And then the critical items. So things that are really going to cause potential issues for the student. So breaking continuous enrollment. So that's another policy item that students are required to be enrolled in all semesters. So if they break that, they will actually need to take action to address it. Otherwise, they won't be able to graduate. GPAs, same thing. Students are required to have a GPA above 3.0. So if they drop below that, we want to make sure we call that out. Failed exams, defenses, culminating experiences are also all things that will prevent a student from graduating. So again, we want to put up that big red flag that, hey, these are things that really need to be taken care of, and to call that attention for both the student and the advising staff so that it can be addressed.
So where are we going? So like Sean mentioned, the Progress Audit Tracker, we'd like to roll that out to faculty and staff in the coming year. We'll be developing also a new professional development section in the iPOS for students to enter their anything professional development related throughout their graduate career. We'll be looking at doing some auto approvals in the iPOS. So like Sean had mentioned, the approval process, every iPOS that gets submitted by a student goes through an approval and review by the academic unit as well as the graduate college. So we'll be looking at maybe automating some of that potentially. And then we have some additional managed faculty approval features and staff advisor features that we'll be working on based on some of the great feedback that we've gotten from all the academic units. Additional graduate student progress reports. We're always looking to improve our reporting to support student progress. And then two things related to Salesforce. So we'll be looking at we're working closely with UTO and the Provost Office on a Salesforce Advisor portal for graduate students, and then looking at different ways that we can do more Salesforce integration to do more strategic communication and outreach to graduate students. So things like reminders to submit your iPods and things of that nature. So those are some of the things we'll be working on in the coming year that we're very excited about. So with that, are there any questions?
Hold on one moment. I think I will go ahead and turn on the settings so you can go ahead and unmute yourself if you have a question. Otherwise, you can put it in chat. So everyone should now be able to unmute yourself if you'd like to jump in with a question.
Can you briefly just talk about again when you forward the iPOS for faculty approval? So they're going to get an email, they click on that link, and then do they have to fill something out, or is it that screen that you showed? It just shows them all of their, I got a little confused as to what they will see.
Yeah, so Laura, when a faculty enters the iPOS, what they're actually taken to, they're taken directly to the summary page of the iPOS. So that's actually, they only have access to the summary page and the audit page right now. So they actually apply their approval directly on the summary page of the iPOS. So they scroll to the bottom of the summary page, which should contain all the pertinent information, courses, committee, petitions, and then they scroll to the bottom. They are able to enter a comment, and then they can apply their approval directly from the summary page.
And then does it come back to the academic unit?
Yes. Okay. So the way that was designed is that it's a kind of an internal loop within the academic unit. So the advisor forwards to faculty, faculty either approves or denies, and then it goes back to the advisor to take further action. So in your case, if you forward it to a faculty, if they approve, it'll come back to you, and then you would forward to the graduate college.
One more question on that. So you showed a screen where they could see all of the students that they were serving on committees for. Is that all, like master's, PhD, everything that their name shows up on?
Correct. Yeah. So specifically ones that they're either a chair or co-chair on.
Oh, they won't see if they're listed as a member.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? We still have a few minutes here. So if there's any questions, feel free to jump in, watch and chat too, if you want to put your question in chat.
I have a question about the graduate student progress reports. If we kind of have an idea of what, like a report, instead of just going, okay, I need one built, because it might be already built there, but I'm not sure where to find it. Who would we go? Do we go to our coordinator, the college coordinator, to say, hey, we're looking for X, Y, and Z. Is there a report already built, or should we request one, or is that somebody else?
Yes, yeah. Reach out to your graduate college coordinator, and they can lead you to the right direction. Or if you do need a custom report built, you can use the form if you can't find it on the site. It's the last tile on the right bottom corner.
Perfect. Thank you. I don't want to ask for a report if it's already there. That's what I was hoping. So yeah, for sure. Well, I'll connect with them. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And we're working on a better, like a table of contents for the site too, so that we've heard that, you know, the site's nice, it looks great, but sometimes it's hard to see where where the reporting structure is. So that's something we've been discussing and looking at in the coming months to get out there too.
All right. Well, we still have a few more minutes, so we're going to be sticking around either way. But I did want to, before everyone starts dropping off, I did want to thank you all for coming. The iPOS is something that, you know, we're pretty proud of. I think it's come a long ways in the last couple of years, and we will be continuing to make improvements to it. So if you have any questions for us, feel free to reach out. If you also have any suggestions for future improvements that we can make, please do send those our way as well. So thank you all, and glad you joined us this morning.
You guys did a great job.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.